Hello, welcome to Ambition Unleashed podcast. I am so excited. We have our very first Olympian on the show today, Ivan Puskovitch. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Ivan.
Of course, yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to do it.
Yeah. So you are heading to the Olympics this summer. What does it feel like?
I mean, it's still honestly soaking in. It's really hard to describe what it feels like. I qualified about 3.5 months ago, but you know, it's still taking time to process because it's one of those goals that it's so big. Everyone has it when you're doing sports at a really young age and you carry it with you. Even just like in the back of your mind, just like, oh, this would be so awesome if this could happen. And with how many times it feels like an insurmountable goal, like there's a lot of moments that people don't feel like they're going to achieve it. So I don't think there's anything that can really prepare you for the moment it actually happens. Like you're not going to be ready to process it. But
Yeah.
obviously I'm just incredibly grateful. I'm filled with so much gratitude for all the people who sacrificed, to help me, chase my dreams and all the people who still play an active role in what's going on today. So I'm grateful for them and I'm grateful to just go represent Team USA on the biggest stage.
Well, we're so excited to have you. I know my family and I, we're going to be cheering for you from our TVs and just shouting and cheering you on. So you have
It's going to be a lot
all
of
over the
cheering. It's
world
a
that are
2 hour
going to be,
race.
well, that's okay. We'll cheer the entire time. So proud of you. I mean, it's incredible. And just to have that kind of determination being so young. And I can't imagine the sacrifices that you had to make. And I don't think that the journey has been easy for you. I mean, to be young and to have to say, no, I can't hang out with my friends, or I can't focus on dating, or I can't do everything that everyone my age is doing because I have this insane goal that I'm trying to reach. That's incredible to have that amount of drive and determination to stay so focused on your goal.
Yeah,
And
thank
and
you. I mean, it certainly doesn't take one to climb a mountain. I mean, yes, it was like me swimming the laps and me, making a lot of like concrete sacrifices or like visible sacrifices. But, there's a lot of people that also, behind the scenes more visible, some more visible than others, that just, they gave up a lot of time, a lot of, opportunities themselves to help, push me in the right direction and make sure that I'm, going to be in the best environments to thrive and, hopefully be the happiest while I'm doing it, happiest I can while I'm doing it. Yeah, I mean, there really is no shortage of sacrifice that goes into making any Olympic athlete, an Olympic athlete. Nobody can do it alone.
did you did you have a passion for swimming growing up? Like, did you come from a family of swimmers, or how did you develop this?
Yeah, so there's like elite swimming does not run in my family. I will say that, my family is a big like my mom loves the ocean, loves the beach, so that's where she took me and my brother all the time at the end of the summers when we visited our grandparents. Um, and we would just spend so much time at the beach. Uh, because we were like a water family for sure, even though not like a family of elite swimmers or elite athletes. So I got thrown in the water like at a really young age. Like I think I was first probably in the water before I was even a year old. Um, um, and so I was just always naturally, I was just thrust into that environment at a really early point, and I was just always really comfortable in it. And as I started getting older and like taking swim lessons, like I just picked it up really quickly. And then by the time I was 6 years old, I was on my first competitive team. Um, and it's just been a journey since then. Of I guess we're coming up on just about 17 years of competitive swimming, and I'm only 23 years old. And yeah, I mean, I tried other sports when I was younger, but I was always that kid that just wanted to go back to the pool. So I just never really stuck it out with much else. And it's, swimming has, because swimming revealed itself as a passion to me at a really early age. And then when I was around 10 years old, that's when I realized, okay, I love doing this, but now I also realize I can be like really good at it on like on a much grander scale. And so then you just, then it just becomes the intermingling of passion and like competitiveness. And it just pushes you throughout the entirety of your career.
Like, how does that process work? How do you get picked? How does someone notice you? Do you have to compete in
Mhm.
in certain things? Like, what is that like?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's like a whole, there's like a hierarchy of like swimming levels in the United States and worldwide. And basically, as you traverse those ranks, you start competing at higher level competitions on bigger scales with more coverage and more eyes. to bear witness to your performance. And then if you continue climbing those ranks and you become the best in those ranks, you'll be picked for the national team. Which is the national team is much bigger than the Olympic team. I think the Olympic team was about a third the size, I think, for swimming at least, of the overall national team. And then it's just a constant, trying to climb the ranks within the hierarchy of the grand scheme of American swimming. Because then you make the national teams, and then you start going to the really really elite competitions that only a certain people on the national team go to, like world championships, for example. And then in my case, open water swimming, which is a little bit different than the pool for qualification purposes. We select our Olympic qualifiers based off of world championship results, and world championships were this past February. The pool, on the other hand, they have their more traditional Olympic trials in about a month. And it's at that competition where about the top two finishers in each event will be selected to go to the Olympics for those events. So it's not like you just like send an email and you're like, I would like to be open for consideration, I'm open to consideration with like the Olympics, and no, it's like the results speak for themselves, and then you have like basically the national governing body, USA Swimming, is just constantly involved in keeping track of that, so they can make sure they're sending the best Olympians to the actual games. Well, the best
So
swimmers to be Olympians at the games.
yeah, so it's years and years of preparing
Mm-hmm.
and training and hopes that you qualify and that you're noticed. What was it like when you found out you made it to the team? Like, I'm sure that memory is engraved in your brain forever. What
Yeah.
what were you feeling? Where were you? Like, what was it like that day?
Yeah, so I mean, it was just a huge flurry of so many different emotions. So the way for my event, open water swimming, the event's 10 kilometers, so it's a really long time. It takes about 2 hours. And the way it works was that a certain amount of people at the conclusion of this race, like the highest finishers, were going to qualify for the Olympics. And there were about 80 people in the race, and I think only 19 or so people were going to qualify for the Olympics. There were only 19 spots. And so when I finished the race, I got 14th place. So I made it, but I was in like the second half. When I finished, I knew, okay, I'm either like in the last few to make it or the first few to miss it. And just like everybody else around me, we start trying to count the people at the finish to see around what place we got, because we all know the criteria. We know how well we had to do to make it. But I'm so exhausted at this point after 2 hours of racing my heart out that I counted about 5 people, and then I just hung my head down and just stopped counting, because honestly, in that moment, I was not going to let anything rob me of the satisfaction of knowing that I truly did leave everything out there. I did not have anything else in the tank. I gave it 100% my all. If I made it, great. If I didn't make it, then I just know it was not my day, because there's nothing I could have done better to execute my race. And then, so I go about 10 minutes without even knowing if I qualified, and I didn't even care in that moment. I was not going to skip over that satisfaction. And then I start getting back with my team, Team USA, and they tell me like, Ivan, we think you're 14th. We think you made it. And, I'm sitting there, and at this point, I'm in a stage of denial. I'm just saying like, oh, there's no way. Like, there's no way. I couldn't believe it. And then like finally somebody on the PA speaker, like the announcer for the event, actually started listing off like names of people who, had likely booked their ticket, and then my name was in there. And then at that point, it was just a big release of emotions. I found my coach. We just had this massive hug and just released so much like gratitude, happiness, exhaustion, pride, joy, everything. It was a really beautiful moment. And it's definitely ingrained in my mind forever.
What a what a beautiful moment. I think that so many people dream of, but very few ever get to experience.
Yeah, I
So
mean, it
unfortunate.
is there are definitely a lot. I mean, it's a really, really big dream, and there's only so many people that can achieve it. It's not because there aren't people who are, capable of greatness. It's just I mean, it's such a small fraction of athletes get to go to the Olympics. So, I mean, you have like, at least in American swimming, the crazy thing is that they usually take the top two in each event at Olympic trials for the pool, and third place, who doesn't make the Olympics, sometimes is good enough to win an Olympic medal, because American swimming is that competitive. It's that deep. So it is, just taking that into account, just knowing all the great athletes that I compete with, that I compete against. I have, it's I'm definitely just like very humble over the fact that like I'm fortunate enough to have been able to make it to this, like get this stage, get this one, the Olympics, you know?
So what's your average day look like now that you're preparing and training? Do you have to swim a certain amount of time? Do you have to eat a certain diet? Like
Hmm.
what is it
Yeah.
like training for the Olympics?
Yeah. So right now, I'm just in full training mode, full-time athlete mode right now. We're about 2.5 months out from my competition, so we got to really be refining and making sure we're just dedicating all of our time to this. It's just an eat, sleep, swim routine at this point. And that's just essentially means it's all work and no play, but it's the Olympics right now. We were just talking about sacrifices. This is a sacrifice I have to make right now in the short term this is just going to occupy all of my time because I want to put this forward for myself and my coach, but I also want to do it for Team USA because Team USA deserves the best when it's time for the Olympics. So I wake up, I have practice at 5:30 a.m. every day. So I wake up at probably about 5 and swim for 2 hours. And then I train again in the afternoon for another 2 to 2.5 hours. So it's about 4 to 4.5 hours of training every day. And that's just the swimming. And then throughout the rest of the day, I'm constantly like I try to take a nap every day at some point because sleep is so paramount to recovery. It is just a huge a huge tool that you can use to help your body heal between sessions because your body is not healing itself and not repairing itself at the same rate it does when it's asleep any other time of the day. And then, eating the nutrition is just so valuable. I try to eat like 4 or 5 meals a day, because the sheer amount that I'm swimming, I'm burning so many calories, like sometimes more than 4,000 calories a day, you know? And so like breakfast's got to be huge when I come back from morning training. I usually I have like two moderate to large dinners after evening training every day. And then and you got to go to bed at a reasonable hour every day. I try to be like asleep by 10 o'clock these days because, like I said, the sleep is paramount. There's nothing else that's gonna have the same benefit that it does to healing your body and making sure that you're ready to tackle that next training session the best you're capable of doing it.
I can imagine the exhaustion that you feel after just one training session.
Yeah, the goal is to we don't have any easy days, honestly. Like like as I think when you're this level of an athlete, and my coach agrees, like you have to be responsible enough to use the rest of your days to recover. Like I have so much recovery equipment, like compression, massage gun, red light therapy, in addition to the sleep and like the naps that I try to fit into my routine throughout, any day of training. If you want an easy day, like just stay home. Like you should be recovering the best you can between every workout. And it's not like the expectation is my coach's expectation is I'm not going to be hurting some days having a hard workout, that's what giving 100% on a daily basis looks like. You're going to start to really hurt at some point. I probably average about 15 to 16,000 yards a day of training for a weekly total of maybe we're getting about 100K in at our highest weeks. So it's a lot of training because I'm an endurance athlete. So I need to put on a lot of reps, a lot of miles, because I'm training aerobic speed, like that like the ability to like coast at a pretty like rapid pace for a long period of time, as well as training my top end speed so I can finish really fast. Because of that, because we're trying to train our top end speed as well, it just makes the workouts so intense, so exhausting. It's funny that you mention it because us swimmers, we pretty much exist in like a perpetual state of exhaustion because all we have to throw 100% into the into those 2 hours every session, every single time, and especially to get to this level, and then if you want to do well at this level. And that frankly goes for every sport. There's no sport out there where you reach the Olympic level and you're not exhausted all the time.
Yeah.
I train in the pool because open water is very different from the pool and the fact that and have like a lot of different variables like weather, wildlife conditions, like water conditions to contend with. All open water swimmers pretty much train in the pool 99% of the time because you have the pace clock there. So it's good to pace your times and train speed because once you develop enough experience in open water swimming, you don't necessarily need to train in the ocean on a regular basis because at this point you're comfortable enough with big waves or small waves or strong currents or racing in the rain or whatever it might be. You don't necessarily need to train that much more. What you do need to train is to just get faster, to be able to hold a faster pace over a long period of time, and then to be able to finish faster and start faster. And the best way to do that is in the pool because the pace clock is your best friend there. Um, there's no point in really timing splits or timing a practice in open water because with the conditions, you're going to be going a different speed every day. In the pool, it's like a laboratory setting, like you're able to compare on like a day-to-day basis, week-to-week basis, season-to-season basis. And, but that said, I still do train outside, so the vitamin D does still play a factor. It sounds like you just got to drink more electrolytes. Yeah, I mean, I consume probably about 90 ounces of electrolytes a day just because I'm training
Wow.
outside twice a day. And hydration is so important. And plain water isn't going to cut it. You got to have some like sodium, some potassium, like good minerals in there to help your body be able to absorb and, have some hydration retention.
So why did you choose open water over pool? What was your thought process behind choosing open water versus pool?
Yeah. I mean, I did my first open water race when I was about 10 years old. My mom just asked, there was an open water race right after a pool competition that I was at. And she asked me if I wanted to do it, and I said, sure, why not? And the reason I was so open to it was because open water it's strictly distance swimming. There's no short events. Like the only Olympic distance is 10 kilometers, 2 hours, very long period of time. But even at this point, at 10 years old, I knew and my coaches knew that I was definitely going to be more geared towards distance events. And the good thing was is I loved that because when I was growing up, when I was really little, I thought the distance events were the coolest things. Like to see all these big kids race to 500 when I'm like 7 years old. And I'm like, I want to do that like that. Like none of my buddies, none of the people my age can swim 20 laps. Like I want to prove I can swim 20 laps. Um, and then, as you get older, then like the maximum distance starts getting higher. So there's no 7-year-old doing the 10K, obviously.
Sure.
But yeah, I just gave it a try because I was just distance oriented and I knew I could handle it. And I remember that the race was so cloudy and gloomy and it was raining and, I was just 10 years old. So it was just a 1 kilometer race. Um, but we did it. There was about like 8 of us and I don't know. I mean, it definitely helps to win your first one, but I just fell in love with it. It felt so right. It's like the most pure form of swimming to just swim in the elements. And I fell in love with the whole like in the pool there's competition to like win. In open water there's competition to win, but also to show like yeah I'm tougher than you. I can handle this more. I can handle this a lot longer than you. It's like I can do this all day. Like that like unspoken dialogue you have with your competitors. And I just thought that was such an addicting feeling. And so there's not really a point where you can choose open water swimming. You kind of have to do both, especially when you're growing up. Um, and so I was still mainly competing in the pool throughout the next several years. But whenever like there was an open water race that I could attend in my local area or nearby, I would absolutely sign up for it and do it because I enjoyed it. I just loved it. And then I started attending open water national championships when I was about 14 years old. I think that was my first experience at like the highest level, at least on the national scale. And I was able to like hold my own. I started making junior national teams, and then at this point, I first represented Team USA in the junior national team in 2016. I was 15 years old, and at this point, I knew okay, if you're gonna have a professional swimming career, like it's gonna be open water oriented, like, and this is amazing because I love it. And but still, you have to train and compete in the pool like all this time because like in college, there's no NCAA open water swimming. It's only in the pool. So for me to go swim in college, I had to swim in the pool as well. So as much as I would have loved to just purely focus on open water when I turned 18, unfortunately could not do that. But now I'm at the point where, I'm finished with my NCAA swimming career. I'm fortunately now an Olympic athlete. As long as I want to swim, I can really just only do open water, which is, which is the way I would love to do it. So when did I choose to focus on it? I think my heart chose to focus on it years ago when I was about 15, but right now is really the first time I'm actually able to purely focus on it.
It's so funny how your heart just always knows your destiny. Like your heart
Yeah.
just always knows what you were destined to do. And sometimes your brain tries to steer you another direction, but your heart will always guide you right. So
Yeah. I think the
that's
heart and
really
the
cool.
gut are two very good indicators of how things are going to turn out. And, I don't know, it was one of those things where I did my first water race and it just felt right. It's like, it was honestly like the first day I, actually visited Southern California when I first moved here, when I was first getting ready to move here before college. It just felt like home, just felt right. It was the same thing with open water
Yeah, because
swimming.
you were from
And
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I'm
and
originally
you
from
moved
like
here.
suburban Philadelphia, Westchester,
Oh,
Pennsylvania, and I moved out here for college when I was about 18. But before that, when I visited, it gave me that same feeling. My heart said like this is gonna be home, the same way that when I raced my first open water race, it told me this is gonna be your swimming home.
and what a perfect place to call home when you love swimming in the open water. You can just walk outside and swim
Yeah, the
whenever you
great good
want.
old
So
Pacific Ocean, it's right there.
you you picked the perfect spot. What advice do you have for someone like a young kid that says, I really want to be in the Olympics? I really would
Mhm.
love to be an elite athlete. What advice would you give them?
Yeah. So the advice I would give would go beyond just the classic, like you have to work hard every day and be disciplined, because everyone knows that. And even that kid knows that, even though even if a kid can't really comprehend the amount of work it takes, they see their parents work hard every day. So they understand that to do something great, you have to work very hard. I would say that it's so important not to lose sight of your why for doing it. And that why, I think for a lot more people needs to be because it just makes me happy and I enjoy it. The sport, especially when it gets to more competitive and stressful levels and stakes start becoming higher, like careers are at stake, money's at stake, whatever it might be, medals are at stake. It really starts to feel like that, it can become a very hard environment to just be positive and feel happy about it. It's so important to have a good enough relationship with the sport and yourself and the environment and the people that you're trusting to help, influence this space. And it's just that it makes you happy because sport is hard enough as it is. And the least you can do is be happy, especially something like swimming. If somebody wants to be an Olympic swimmer, I mean, it's a solitary sport in the pool or open water. I mean, you're training, your face is in the water the whole time. Whenever you're at the wall, you're just trying to catch your breath. You swam, you totally understand. And, so you need to be at peace and at peace with yourself, and maintain that positive relationship with it because so much of the sport is mental. So much of any sport is mental. It's important for you to find a way to chase your goals in the sport without sacrificing your right to enjoy the journey. Because I know that for me, at least, I'm a big believer that happy swimmers are fast swimmers. When I was at my happiest, loving where I was swimming, who I was swimming for, my life when I was outside of the pool, because you need to love your life outside of the pool as well. Um, I was kicking butt, taking names like every single time, and that was like all throughout high school and then these past 2 years. But there was about like 2.5 years at the start of college where my career was having a very hard time. And it was mostly because it wasn't because I wasn't showing up to practice. It's not that I wasn't trying my hardest, but my psychological relationship with the sport and the swimming space was not in a good place. I wasn't enjoying it. I wasn't happy. I wasn't looking forward to it. Um, and then that just impacts confidence. That impacts your enjoyment of it. And then it's not worth it. It's so time consuming. It takes so much commitment and sacrifice. Like, why would you want to sacrifice to something that's making you miserable when you can do something to make you happy? Um, so kind of a long-winded answer, but I just think it's so important. You got to be able to, it's going to be so much easier for you to climb the ranks in competitive swimming to the Olympic level if you're able to enjoy the whole journey or as much of it as you can because you're taking care of your relationship with it, not solely identifying yourself as all I bring to this world is swimming, because then that puts so much stress onto you, and is likely just going to be a hurdle throughout the whole thing.
That's such an honest answer. And there's so much more that's involved than
Hmm.
just working hard. It's you have to be in that right mental state. You have to have that right mindset and you have to have that why, and why has to be strong enough. And I know the why for me is my family. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I just yeah, you just hit the nail right on the head. I mean, like the why is the key. The why has got to be the key. If there's no why, then you're just gonna feel like you're twisting in the wind, and no
Yeah.
one wants to twist in the wind when that means being in the water 4.5 hours a day and you're just questioning.
Sure. And I think if you can figure out your why and make that journey more enjoyable, then life as a whole becomes more enjoyable. I'm so proud of you, Ivan. I'm so excited
Thank you
for
very much.
you. I know you're going to win the gold medal.
We're
Yes,
gonna do our
I
best.
know.
Team USA deserves the best.
I know you're going to do amazing. Is there one thing you're excited to do or excited to eat like after you win?
So Not one thing in particular, like, to eat or anything. I mean, I love traveling to Europe, fortunately. I mean, I get to travel the world in my swimsuit. It's a beautiful experience. I actually just returned from Sardinia, Italy, 3 days ago.
Wow.
And that was beautiful. The one thing I love Europe breakfasts. I feel like Europe just has the best breakfasts. Um, but to be honest, what I'm most looking forward to Olympic wise has got to be it's got to be the Olympic Village. It's just this massive compound where like it's comfortable. Like, they just shove all the Olympic athletes in. I'm just excited for the people I'm going to be able to meet. The conversations I'm going to be able to have, and just like what I'm going to learn from everybody. Because I love talking to people from other countries. When I get to travel and to compete and represent Team USA, I just don't think it's going to be more interesting of an experience than at the Olympics themselves in the village.
Do you have any 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 plans for what you're gonna do once you're done when you're done competing? Like where do you go once you reach the top? Like you've accomplished what people just dream of accomplishing. Like what next?
Yeah. So the beautiful thing is I mean, like a lot of Olympic athletes, I'd say not, if not most, take a break after the Olympics because you got to kind of let your mind decompress a little bit. I mean, you've just been working your whole life for this thing, or specifically the past four, and maybe more specifically the past 4 years, and it's time to like take a little bit of a breather. And so I'm certainly going to take a little bit of a pause just because I don't want to burn myself out. I'm gonna like you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's like one of the highest things you can achieve, and it's very easy to have that like now what mentality after, and kind of skipping over that moment for me to process that feeling by just continuing to hammer it hard in the pool, is just not going to be good for my relationship with the sport or like my happiness, my relationship with, just like life in general. So, definitely it's just going to be, taking a little bit of a pause after, but I'm still going to be in the water swimming for fun, just not 100K weeks. I will, I'll take a break from getting up at 5 in the morning. And, I mean, just continue being active in the open water swimming community because the beautiful thing is that open water swimming has a whole community behind it that is completely excluded from the Olympics. There's just these massive events around the world and around the country that people who love to open water swim just come meet and just do this big event. Big like a 30-kilometer swim or something like that. Just to like challenge like the human will. And I'll definitely be a part of that. And then just when not gonna have like a time on the break, a time limit on the break. Just gonna really let the wait, just and then when the brain and like the soul and the heart feel like it's time to come back. Let's get back to work. Then that's what nature calls for.
I mean, you certainly deserve it. I think you deserve all the time off you want after you worked so hard for so many years. If
Oh, thank you very much. I mean, it's gonna feel weird. I definitely don't take many breaks. I mean, I usually train all the way through the summer. Like a lot of summers actually take like maybe a week or two off at the end of August, but I always just continue swimming because I do love it. It gives me a huge sense of purpose, especially like a huge sense of daily direction. And not to mention my life routine has been built around it for 17 years competitively. But it's just going to be a matter of just like finding enjoyment in like other things after the Olympics for a little bit of time. But like, fortunately I'm going to be able to have the time to do that. But I'm not spending too much time thinking about that right now, honestly. I know that's what's going to happen, but right now the brain is constantly on just the day in and day out preparation heading into Paris. Cause I'm not looking forward to the break. The break is just going to be, it's not what's the break is. It's not like, oh, I just got to get through the Olympics and then I take a break. The break is just something I know is going to be good after. Right now it's the main goal is to maintain that daily motivation of like, okay, man, let's get to Paris. Race is August 9th and let's give it all we got.
do you have like a countdown clock or a little thing you're checking off at home?
Yeah. So, I mean, I have that date, August 9th, set in my head. That's when I compete. I'll be there much earlier than that, just in the village, training, acclimating, and so on and so forth. But on the workouts every day, my coach prints the workouts out, for us to have right in front of us, while we're training. And, at the top of my workout, he always puts the Paris Olympics logo. And then underneath it says like, oh, like 80 days left or like 79 days left. So I see the countdown every single time that he hands me the workout. This is a reminder. It's like, okay, like there's your why. Like it goes back to the why. It's like, go to your why right now is to go and do the best you can at the Olympics. So if you're questioning why you have to do this incredibly hard practice right now, like that's your why. And it's just like a really good, like, but we don't talk about it. We don't sit there and look at each other like, oh, like 60 days or 40 days or whatever, whatever. It's just kind of like an unspoken, like communicated fact to make sure that both, like, so that we're both aware, like, okay, like, like we got this much time to get some really good work in, but it's not, we can't control how many days there are left. We try to control the controllables. So there's no reason to spend a lot of dialogue or conversation stressing about it, how much time there is or isn't. Yeah, it's all about staying in the present. I think that that's the best way to approach most things in life, and especially for competitive sport, you have to be able to stay in the present. So so even if, like, I would never have like the countdown in my room, because then I'm living 60 days from now, and that makes it very difficult for me, at least, who trains alone most of the time, and like in swimming where like I'm not breathing or speaking like 95% of the time. Like, it would just, like, I need to be able to, like, when I'm in those, like, long, like, solitary workouts, I need to be able to stay engaged in that moment, and that's a very challenging thing because it's so much time for, like, your brain to wander to things that are stressing you out, things you're excited about, things you are sad about, very happy about, when in reality, what your brain needs to be on is making every stroke you take as, as conducive to you getting better as you can, as conducive to you getting better as possible. And, yeah, so that is the key. You have to be able to remain in the present during the preparation leading up and during the competitions themselves.
I'm so grateful that you took the time to be on the show. And I know that the listeners are also so grateful, and you've given us so much knowledge and such an insight into the Olympic world. So I feel like I'm on this journey with you.
You share it all, man. I mean, it's fun to talk about, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Ivan, you're so incredibly inspirational. I think that you were clearly raised incredibly well,
Thank you very much.
and just hearing you speak and seeing that drive in you at such a young age, I that just doesn't come from nowhere. That was instilled in you, and
It was, yeah. I mean, it's so important to have a really strong parental figure that imparts some, good morals and like proper prioritization, to like be able to go through life. And, when I was saying like you don't climb a mountain alone, like, I mean, I couldn't have done it without my mom. I mean, like, she drove me to practice every day for so long, and showed me, explained to me and showed me what it's like to be disciplined for your goals, if that's really what you want your goals to be.
your mom is incredible, and I've gotten to learn a little bit about your life and your mom, and she sounds like such an amazing person, and in fact so amazing that thousands of strangers came together to make sure that she would be at the Olympics with you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're so lucky to have such a mom that cares so much.
Yeah, just
She's
passionate, just
instilled
passionately
this in you.
supportive.
At the end of the day, what's really important isn't money, and it isn't a title. It's doing something beautiful in the world. It's doing
Mhm.
something that
I think it's
inspires people.
fulfillment, like doing something beautiful for the world. It must be something fulfilling, you know?
I agree.
It's got to give you a sense of purpose.
I agree. And I'm so proud of you. I can't stress that enough. And I can't wait to watch you. And I will be watching you those full 2 hours and cheering for you from the top of my lungs. And
Thank
and
you
I
very much. All the
can't wait
support goes a long way.
to see you with your medal. And I just wish you the best. And just know you have a lot of people in your court. I know you said it's a solitary sport, but you are not alone, and you have more people than you know cheering for you. So we're all just so incredibly excited for you, Ivan.
Yeah, thank you very much. Fortunately, we got all Team USA behind us this time around. I'm really honored and excited to be the one in the water doing it for us.
Well, thank you so much, Ivan. We can't wait to have you back on the show. And your competition is August 9th, you said, right?
Yeah, that's when my race is supposed to take place.
So your race will be August 9th. Do you know the time yet, or?
I know that it's going to be, well, from the Pacific time zone, it's going to be 9 hours ahead, but I'm not entirely sure. I think it would likely be around midnight, midnight on August 9th in
Okay.
California, if I had to
So,
predict, but that's without looking at the schedule right in front of me.
so everyone who's listening who is in California, just make sure you nap early so that you can wake up at midnight.
Yeah, because it's not like you
And
watch at
watch
midnight and you
Ivan.
go to bed at 12:05. It's going on till 2 a.m. just marathon swimming, doesn't go by quick.
So everyone make sure that you watch and you support Ivan and you cheer him on because he's doing this for all of us and we want Team USA to win.
Yeah, go Team USA.
Yes, go Team USA. Thank you, Ivan. I appreciate you and I hope you have an amazing day and I'll let you get back to your training.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure being on the show today.
Thank you, Ivan.